Welcome to the club! Hello everyone! Today we are discussing the last part of the book Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, and additionally I think I will add about the anime because yesterday I managed to rewatch it. As always, I think we can start with the summary of this part. Will you please?
Okay. Howl goes to the funeral disguised as a dog. The witch chases him. He says they must move house. Howl decides to buy the former head shop and they can sell flowers now there. The move is complete and Sophie learns that Calcifer was once a fallen star. Now Sophie and Michael collect flowers and sell them in market Chelyabinsk. The scarecrow tries to enter the flower shop, but it goes away when Sophie tells it to. The dogman manages to turn back into a person for a couple of moments and says that Letty knows Sophie is under a spell. Finally, Miss Angorian calls at the castle. Sophie sends her away. Sophie tells Howl that her dog is a cursed man. Howl and Calcifer turn the dog back into a man named Percival. Michael is convinced that he's actually Prince Justin. Sophie discovers that both Howl and Michael know she's under a curse and have been trying to lift it.
Okay, I will continue. On Midsummer Day, Sophie prepares to leave, but is stopped by family members who know about her curse. Howl rushes to rescue Megan's family from the witch. The scarecrow enters the castle, followed by the witch's voice demanding Howl's head to complete her creation. Sophie uses 7-league boots to rescue Howl from the witch, who is defeated when Howl arrives with the scarecrow. Miss Angorian reveals herself as the witch's fire demon and threatens Howl's heart. Sophie saves Howl by breaking the contract with Calcifer and turning back into a teenager. Howl destroys the witch's heart, causing Miss Angorian to disappear. Prince Justin and Wizard Solomon appear in place of the Scarecrow and Percival. Sophie and Howl decide to live together and Calcifer stays in the hearth happily ever after. Okay, so let's talk, I think, a little bit about this part and overall impressions of the whole book. What is most interesting for me is that last time we discussed with you who the dog man and the scarecrow were. In fact, we both were wrong because they were not whole people, so to say. And I was both quite amazed at this concept and a little bit frightened because I would never imagine that it can be this way, that the witch kidnapped two people and decided kind of like to dismantle them into several parts and make new people, and also after making new people turning them into something else. It seems both quite interesting and complicated to me. What do you think?
Well, it was difficult for me again to read it and to understand everything because it was not so clear for me. First of all, I thought that maybe it's just because of the language and the genre. There is a lot of magic and some strange things. That's why probably I can't understand a lot of things. But I decided to reread some chapters in Russian. So one chapter was a chapter full of magic.
Yes, so when Howl and the witch were fighting.
Yes, because there were a lot of moments like something exploded, something happened, and I didn't really have this picture in my head. That's why I decided just to clarify everything. And I read it in Russian, and guess what? Nothing changed. Like, I still do not have this picture in my head, and it's very difficult to perceive this kind of story for me. And also the last two chapters were quite difficult for me again because I had a lot of questions to the plot, to the characters, like what happened? So is it really this way as I understood? Like the witch was so powerful and she was so dangerous. Then they just went to her castle and Howl said something and she disappeared, like she died. what happened? Maybe I just missed something, some part of the story. Maybe I just didn't understand it, but no, in the Russian version it was absolutely the same, like no additional information, so I missed nothing, so I understood everything, but still I do not get the point. And that's why I was not I was a little bit surprised with Miss Hungarian, I think.
Yes.
Because actually I wanted to say that this is the only character who has some reasons and who does proper things, because the first part of the book she was just a woman who had her boyfriend and he was missing, and she decided to find out what happened with him. And she just came to Howl and started asking some questions, and I thought, okay, I can understand her, so she's a real person, and so nothing so special about her. That's why probably I liked her that moment. But at the end of the book, it turned out that she's a fire demon. Like, what is going on? So I don't understand again. So
okay, so I agree with you that it was difficult to read for me too, the part when Howl and the witch had a fight, had this battle. I also reread it in Russian, and it kind of like got a little bit more understandable than in English for me. And I agree, I was completely shocked by the fact that Miss Hungarian was a fire demon, or turned out to be a fire demon. I could never imagine such transformation. About the witch and what happened to her is just my idea. I think that because she had a contract with the fire demon for a very long time, it happened that the fire demon overpowered her and started to suck all her life strength and power strength out of her at some moment. That's why at the end of the book it just happened so that all her power, life power, magic power, traveled to her fire demon, so to say. It's how I saw. It's how I saw it.
Well, I agree with you, yes. So I think that you're right, but again, it's just a suggestion still.
Yes,
so,
of
because
course.
there are not clear details about this thing, and we do not know a lot about these contracts. And to tell the truth, I still do not know anything about fire demons, like what is their main aim, what is the purpose. So we had some
Glimpses.
yes, but still it's not enough. It's not clear, and that's why I do not like it.
I also thought about, do you remember when Sophie and Calcifer started their contract? Calcifer told that Sophie had to find out about the details of this contract to break it. But in one of the chapters, Calcifer also mentioned that Sophie got some kind of a clue. And I still can't understand what was the clue.
I miss Isaac Asimov with his like man of science. So this
Logic.
is because this fact. Yes, because
Okay.
of this fact.
Well, of course, Isaac is a scientist, and he wrote in a completely different genre. And here, maybe the author wanted the reader to have many contemplations about her book. At least, it seems like that. Okay, on the whole, what I also didn't get, at what point did Sophie fall in love with Howl and Howl fall in love with Sophie? Did you get that?
No, and the love story is very bad here. It is bad. It's extremely bad because there are no hints like why he loved her, why she loved him. You should write it in some details somewhere in the book, not just like in the last chapter. And like he says, okay, let's live together. It's not a love story.
I agree. I completely agree.
I was furious. So I can't say that I was really angry because I couldn't expect it, because I could expect it. Yes. So let's be honest. And I thought that probably they would end up together. But still, I was furious that it happened this way, just because it is stupid to my mind, because there were no hints, no situations where they could show their feelings to each other, so in a slightest way.
I completely agree. I wasn't furious, I was more upset, because I was really looking forward to how it is going to develop their love story. And in fact, when, yes, in the final chapter they were like, just okay, let's live together, I was like, what? When did it start? Okay, I had some kind of a feeling at the point when Sophie wanted to leave the castle, because she thought that Howl preferred Miss Angorian over her. And she was upset, and I thought that, okay, she is jealous. But it's not enough. It's just one small tiny detail that cannot lead to any like deep feeling yet. The story needs some kind of development. And I was upset about it, for sure. I was upset about it. But maybe, of course, maybe because it's still the book for the children, maybe the author decided to concentrate on different journeys and magic and all of that stuff. Though, if it's a story for children, why would the author make Howl a womanizer, for example? It's also very strange to me. I agree on this point. So, on the whole, about the book, as I mentioned previously, I enjoyed the book. On the whole, I agree with your notes about what was illogical or what was not very clear. I agree that something needs to be, I don't know, like expanded or developed. I agree completely. And still, I find this book quite amusing, because still it's full of magic, it's full of strange things that seem to be interesting. It has something that was unexpected for me, and I kind of enjoyed it on the whole. Would I recommend reading it? Most probably only if you are a fan of an animated movie and you want just to find out more about the origins of these characters, and probably to younger people, younger children, even maybe like for children under maybe 15, 13.
I vowed for 10.
Okay, children under 10. Still, I find this book worth reading for me. I don't think that I spent like time in vain or something like that. I enjoyed it, and I understand and I agree with you that when we read books in English, it should be kind of like an example of the language to learn from. But still, I also enjoy the books when most of the language is understandable for me, and kind of like I enjoy it and I know it, and because I can pay more attention to the plot than to the language, for example. For me, it's both valuable, the plot and the language.
Okay, I can't agree with you here, just because of my personal impressions are different, and I didn't enjoy it at all. So I have, as I said, a long list of the moments that I didn't like. So the first and the main, for me, the most crucial is of course characters, because I didn't like them. I do not understand their reasons, the reasons of their behavior. And I do not like Sophie just because she is emotionless. Like, she just accepts everything. So maybe it's not that bad, but she has no personality for me, because when she is cursed, she doesn't react. She says, okay, so I will go there and I will try to do something, but no emotions here. also, I do not like the fact that she believes other people so easily, because she thinks that this is her fate, this is her destiny, just because she's the eldest person.
Yes.
And what? And also, I do not like the thing. So it was written in the last chapter, something like Fanny is not so bad as I thought, is not so bad as Martha said. But Martha just said that Fanny is not the best person because she has her own motives. Sophie thought that, okay, maybe it's right. Like, can you think yourself, please? Can you use your brains and make your own conclusions? So I didn't like this part. Also, of course, as I mentioned about Howl, he is a strange wizard. He is the powerful wizard, and a lot of people are frightened. But what did he do? The only fact that we know is that he kind of ate girls' hearts. Yes. But no one saw it. There are no proofs, so everything is okay with these girls. And he just keeps moaning and suffering, and the whole book he is just talking about girls. That's it. So there is no real power. And in the last chapters, again, we have the information that the most powerful weapon he had was green slime. Okay, let's just accept this fact. Well, Miss Angorian, so I can't say that she is my favorite character, but at least she has some story and she has some reasons, some motives. That's why I can't say that she is that bad. So as for other characters, they are not that prominent. They play their role, their part in the story, but I can't say that they're really so important and they did some really important things for the story. I can't say anything. Then again, so the love story was bad. The mystery story was extremely bad. What do I mean? The mystery line. So we have this kind of a mystery, like why the Witch of the Waste doesn't like Howl. Why did she curse Sophie? And also what happened to Calcifer, and all these small mystery lines. But the answer to all these mysteries are just given. So it's not like it's continually developing and you get some details, and like piece by piece you start to understand the story. And if you can't predict it, that's okay, that's totally fine, because so it is interesting to read that something that is not predictable. But at least when you know the answer, you can explain why it happened this way. But in this book I can't explain, because I do not have these pieces of information, and I do not know. For example, for me it was really strange that Calcifer had Howl's heart. Yes. It was just given as a fact, because Sophie just looked at him and understood that this is Howl's heart. How did she understand it? So when she understood that Calcifer was a fallen star, okay, there were some evidences that Sophie used to understand it. Like the expression on his face was like that of the fallen star that they saw chapters. But at least we know why she made such a conclusion. Yes. But about Howl's heart, how did she understand? No one knows, no one cares about it. Okay, it's fantasy, it's a book for children. Okay, we will just accept this fact. And also, well, generally I do not like the plot, because yes, I can see a lot of drawbacks here, but okay, so partly they can be excused because it's fantasy, but not all of them, and I still have a lot of questions. And I do not like the language of this book. I do not mean any stylistic devices, something like high language, no. What I mean is that the language here is just actions, so only actions, and there are no philosophical things, no phrases, no quotes that you analyze after you read them. No thought-provoking quotes and phrases that I mark as something nice, because well, I think that almost in all books I really love marking some quotes, and sometimes I just look through the book and just read these nice remarks. Also, so about Howl, I forgot to mention that they pay too much attention to his hair, his suits, his clothes in total. Like, it's not that crucial for the story. Well, I mean, I kind of understand it, that the author tried to create the atmosphere and she used these descriptions just to show us what kind of character he was. But for me, it doesn't develop the character, and I care more about his personality, not his clothes, really. For me, it's strange, so they concentrate too much on the appearance. All in all, yes, I didn't like the plot. I think it's too childish, so probably if I had read this story 23 years ago, so I could have liked it, but I'm not sure, but maybe. At least my attitude would be a bit better, at least. And I insist that the plot is not clear and that it's not that good for fantasy book. The worst thing here was that I needed to read it not just for the sake of the story, but also I needed to read it and then discuss it with you and analyze it. And it's like literature at school. So when you do not understand anything, when you are not interested in stories, but you still make yourself reading and you make yourself analyzing the part of the story that you do not really follow. So that's why it was a torture for me. But probably, yes, if I just read this book, well, just for fun, just for myself, probably I would have fewer negative feelings and emotions.
I understand you, because when I was made to read things I didn't like, I felt completely the same. I was like wondering, why am I made to read it? Because okay, some people in the past decided that this book should be read by everyone and that it's a masterpiece, but I don't feel the same about it. And I also felt more negative emotions when I was made to read something that I didn't want to. And I agree that, for example, when I myself choose to read something or to watch something and in the end I don't like it, it's okay, because okay, it was my choice, and anyways, if I don't like it strongly, I can stop at any point. I agree with you mostly about the character of Sophie, because I think that she also kind of like lacks personality, and it's difficult to tell what kind of person she is. Though again, maybe because she was the eldest, she had to take care of her younger sisters, and maybe because she spent a lot of time doing that, she didn't have time to develop her own personality. And why on earth would Howl fall in love with such a character? I don't understand, of course. Though in the book, Howl is not someone interesting himself. I agree that most of the time he doesn't do anything that can be understood that he's a wizard and how powerful he is. Continuing the thought about the anime. So yesterday I rewatched the anime Moving Castle by Hayao Miyazaki. It seems that mostly those two things, those two concepts, are quite far away from each other. I mean, the book and the anime. So on the whole, you can like anime, and you don't really have to read the book to like it, to continue liking it, because the stories are very different. In the anime, you have only like the setting, the characters, and not all of them. And some of the plot lines are twisted so much there that you can't even understand why it is done, what purpose it has. So for example, Hayao Miyazaki almost always adds war to his works. He wants to show that it's a very bad thing, it's devastating, and no one should have wars or like get into it. In the anime, Howl doesn't court any girls. He's not a womanizer. When the doorknob is turned into black, he goes into war, and he kind of like takes part in there. And also, he is made to take part in the war because the king wants all the wizards to defend the country and all of that stuff, and he just didn't want to take part in the war. Not that he didn't want to search for any princes or wizards or something like that. At the end of the book, there is a small interview with the author, and also she mentions that in the anime, Howl is made like more heroic, more wizard. And I agree. I'm sure that I like Howl from the anime much more than Howl from the book. And also what I strongly didn't like after reading the book and after watching the anime, in the anime there was a very, very strange situation with the Witch of the Waste. So yes, the Witch of the Waste also curses Sophie in the anime, but it seems that she does it only because Sophie was not very polite with her when the witch visited the head shop. It seemed like that. And also, in the book, it seems that the Witch of the Waste is the main problem of everything. But there, at one point, when Sophie goes to see the king in the anime, the witch joins her. It's kind of like because the king wants to talk to all of the wizards and make them defend the country. When the witch gets into the castle, the wizard Suleiman, who is a woman there, like drains the witch of all her power. And Sophie decides to take care of the witch. She takes her into the castle, and the witch lives with them, and she just like feeds her with a spoon. I was like, what is going on? What is happening? I didn't remember this part with the witch, and I was like so shocked, and I was not confused. I was almost furious about this line in the anime because I was like, you shouldn't take care of the witch who cursed you and turned you into an old woman. So yes, it was very strange. That's, I think, all I wanted to add about the anime.
Yes, and one thing about the interview with the author, because I also have this interview in my book. The author said, people always hope that Howl is real. There are queues and queues of young ladies all over the world who want to marry him. So, as a person who read only the book, for me it sounds super strange. It is nonsense. But now, well, I kind of understand. So, as you said about anime, that he is more heroic there, so maybe it makes some sense.
Yes, I think that most who are like in love with this character, I'm sure that they only watched the anime, and maybe if they read the book, they would change their opinion about this character, maybe. So anything else to add? No, let's move to the vocabulary. I can start. The first phrase is get the better of, which means to defeat or trick someone by being clever, often used figuratively. And the sentence is, the dog man was taken completely by surprise and his instincts got the better of him.
So my phrase is catch somebody on the rebound. It means to see or talk to somebody later. Though if I were you, I'd be in upper folding, making sure to catch Letty on the rebound, Sophie told him.
My next phrase is none the worse, which means not damaged or harmed despite something. "Have you done it, Calcifer?" coughed Howl. "I think so," Calcifer said, rising up the chimney. He looked none the worse for his ride on the shovel. "You'd better check me, though."
The next word, dubious. Thought not to be completely true or notable, to be trusted or feel in doubt or not feeling certain. Howl conjured himself a black tissue and blew his nose on it. The window rattled. He picked up one of the slices of bread and honey from the bench and beckoned the dogman. And the dogman looked dubious.
My next phrase is to veer off, which means to change direction. The castle veered off sideways round the pool and drifted down another avenue lined with different flowers.
Fend someone off. To push or send away an unwanted person. Some of the onlookers found the monsters too terrifying. Many went home, others jumped down into the rolling ships and fended them off from the quay.
My next phrase is to hurl away, to throw something away with force or in a violent manner. The rags trailing from its outstretched arms were fewer and grayer, and the turnip of his face was withered into a look of determination, as if it had hoped ever since Howl hurled it away until at last it had hopped its way back.
Swivel. To turn around a central point in order to face in another direction. My skull was far away and I ran out of strength before I reached it. I would have lain in that hedge forever if you had not come and talked life into me. It swiveled to Mrs. Fairfax and then to Letty. I thank you both too, it said.
The next one is willy-nilly, which means whether one likes it or not. The dogman tried to get away, but Howl got his shoulder under its chest and shoved, so that it went up onto its hind legs willy-nilly.
Okay, and the last phrase I have is in a hurry, surprisingly, but in an informal way, it means easily or readily. Howl may have forgiven me a lot of things, but he's not going to forgive me for this in a hurry.
Okay, I have a couple of more words. So the phrase is hot on the heels, which means following closely. The phrase is midsummer day dawned. About the same moment that it did, Howl crashed in through the door with such noise that Sophie shot up in her cubbyhole, convinced that the witch was hot on his heels. And the last word that sounded a little bit confusing to me because the word is decoy, which means something or someone used to trick or confuse people, especially something or someone that is not what they appear to be. Because I was thinking about the word decay, which means like rotten, but it's completely different, and the phrase is then a new voice spoke out of nowhere. It was enlarged and muffled, as if it were speaking in a box. But it was unmistakably the voice of the witch. Michael Fisher, it said, tell your master Howl that he fell for my decoy. I now have the woman called Lily Angorian in my fortress in the waste. Tell him I will only let her go if he himself comes to fetch her. Is that clear, Michael Fisher? So I think that's it for the vocabulary. Anything else to add? No. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining us while we discuss this book. Next time we're going to start a new one, and we are going to leave all our contacts in the description box below. We are always willing to find out your opinion about the book, so please join us next time. So thanks for watching, and live long, and
may you enjoy all the books you read.
Bye.
Bye bye. Finally, Miss Angorian calls at the castle. Це Люциус Малфой. Okay. Еще раз.
When Howl arrives, when the scare... Sorry, еще раз. And overall expressions or impressions, expressions?
Character that for me, it's one of the drawback of this. The list is so long that I'm afraid to even start. Блин, reasons and information просто не могут покинуть чат. Я не знаю, как еще можно слова использовать. Сейчас, подожди. Ну, hint, ладно. Hint еще поменьше говорила. Yeah, so, and it's okay, because... блин, я забыла все, что хотела сказать.
Chapters ago, что-то там?
Ну, нет, это я уже сказала.
Сейчас дверь откроется.
I always think he'd be in for... Ну ладно, нет, давай вот так прочитаем, только часть.
Okay, guys, say. Нам надо фразу.
Надо.
And. Так, мне с этой рукой сложнее. Сейчас я ее как-нибудь закреплю. Видишь, у меня раскрываются пальцы одинаково.